Yo, what up? What up? We are talking NFL futures. Looking at season outlook, football's a couple of weeks away, so just want to see what you guys thinking right now. Kind of go over what we're looking at below the board. Kind of go over some team rankings, projections. We got some future bets based off team outcomes, but just curious to see what you guys are doing and who you guys are going with. So we'll give it a couple of seconds. But yeah, I mean, right now, Falcons are definitely a team I'm betting on heavily for the over. Looking forward to that. Their team wins right now, set at 8.5. Ton of value, at least from my standpoint, that they're going to be there. So that's one of the ones I'm looking for. Talking shop, I know Dolphins are a big hit. We got some. We're actually fading the Vikings this year. Who else we got? I think we're over on Cleveland Brown team total. So we'll just kind of go through, see what kind of bets we're making this year. Kind of go some team breakdowns, see how your team's looking at. Want to hear your guys' thoughts, quarterback play, offense versus defense, efficiency, that kind of stuff. So, like I said, I'll kick it off. I got the Falcons going over their 8.5 win total. Right now, just to me, it's a big thing. Last year they had seven. They were 7-10. The NFC South is pretty weak. You know what I mean? But look at the strength of schedule. They have the second easiest strength of schedule in all of the NFL this year. So that plays well. They're playing at least 40 games against rookie quarterbacks. And last year, the defense was their biggest issue. And what did they do? They went out there and they got some players. They got Caden Ellis. They got Jeff Okuda, Mike Hughes, David Onyemata, Calais Campbell, etc. But you look at their biggest weaknesses, and really it was the defense, right? I mean, the Falcons' defense was just not good. You look over here, the Falcons where so this is EPA pass versus rush. So the further to the right you are, the worse your defense is, and the further to the top you are, the worse your rush defense is. And Falcons were bad in both. Their run defense was bad, their pass defense was bad too. But they addressed that. They got some DBs, they got a bunch of D linemen and linebackers come in and make an improvement. And then you got Bijan Robinson on the offensive side to go along with Algier. And I think it's going to be just a potent rush attack with some good defense. And so to me, it's kind of a no brainer that their 8.5 win total is going to hit. I mean, again, second easiest schedule. We ran the simulation using some DVOA metrics, and we simulated the season like 10,000 times. And the over just keeps hitting, man. The over just keeps hitting. There's a bunch of EV plus EV, so expected value, huge edge on that. So that's the one where I'm laying my money down on. I'm believing the hype. I'm believing the hype that the Falcons can come through and win 9 games this year. I mean, they've kind of got a cupcake schedule, and so for me, that's kind of a no-brainer. But I'm curious to see what you guys think and other teams that you guys are seeing. Shrine 95, what up? What do you think happens with the Giants? Yeah, so the Giants going to be an interesting team, right? So we look here. So again, this is just the forecasted DVOA. So this is like how efficient is an offense and defense projected going into this year, right? And so you can see New York's right down here. And so what that means is, they're slightly below average on offense and they're slightly below average on defense, right? And that's not a huge shocker based off what happened last year, right? So if we go back to, how well they run the ball, right? Saquon Barkley was what was the man, right? And so, they were definitely pretty decent at running the ball. But when you go back to their pass efficiency, they were just an average team, slightly below average throwing the ball, right? And you can say what you want about Daniel Jones. We actually have that breakdown right here too. Here it is. So this is the EPA per play quarterback chart. So this is just last season, right? And so all this is showing you is expected points added, right? So all that means is how efficient were these quarterbacks on a play-by-play basis, not over, just play-by-play. And so the further to the right you are, the more efficient you are, right? And that makes sense. So look at Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow. Brock Purdy was actually very efficient last year, and that makes sense, right? And then the volatility, this is the y-axis. So the closer to the top you are, the more volatile you were, right? So like the more wide swings you had in positive plays and negative plays, right? And we see that PJ Walker, Jameis Winston, right? Dak Prescott, very volatile, right? And so you look at Daniel Jones, man, he's down here in good company. I mean, this is where you want to be. He is slightly above average on a productive standpoint, right? And he's very consistent. And that's kind of where you want your quarterback to be, right? Now, if he were closer over here, he'd be a Patrick Mahomes, but he's kind of in this middle where he's not a superstar per se, but he can win you some games. So the big question is, is it in Daboll we trust, and can Daniel Jones take that next step? You got Saquon back, and so if we look at their schedule, their outlook, right? I mean, the Giants. The tough part is the Giants are in the East, right? The NFC East is going to be pretty damn tough between the Cowboys and the Eagles. But with that being said, I mean, let's take a look, right? So their win total for Vegas is set at 8.5 wins, right? And so they have the 19th easiest of the schedule. So really, they're kind of a little bit above average or a little bit harder than average a schedule for the Giants, right? And so again, we did some simulation with some DVOA metrics. That's a defensive adjusted value over average, right? And we got them coming around 6.2 wins on average, right? That doesn't mean they're only going to win 6 games, just on average over 10,000 simulated seasons that we did. That was the average number of wins they got. But with that being said, you have reason to be excited if you're the Giants, right? Now, Saquon should run his ass off on that 1-year deal, right? So you should have a lot of that productivity, and you picked up Darren Waller. That should be a huge boost for Daniel Jones, right? But you kind of look at this game by game basis, man. Cowboys should be tough, Niners should be tough, Dolphins, Bills, Commanders, well, not the Commanders. Commanders won't be tough. Scratch that, right? But Jets, Cowboys again, Patriots defense is going to be a problem. Packers, we'll see what that is. Saints should be a win, and then you got Eagles twice to end the season. I just don't know if you can pick up 9 wins with that brutal of a gauntlet of a schedule, but it'll be close. But, if it were me, if I were putting my money down on it, I'd have to lean under just kind of from what I'm seeing here, unless we get a huge jump in productivity from the Giants and they can kind of move over here into this quadrant, otherwise I got to think under. But trying 10 wins, baby. Listen, I'm rooting for you, Try 95. I'm rooting for you. I've got no skin in this game. So I definitely, go Giants, go. All right. Any chance the Bucks are bad enough to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, who's a T Swizz monster? Yeah. So here's the problem. Yeah, I think the Bucks are gonna be they're gonna be god awful. You got Baker Mayfield coming in here, and we all know what Baker does. We've seen Baker long enough now to know who Baker is. But again, looking at this volatility chart, right, he was not productive, right, and he, wasn't super volatile, but he just consistently was not productive. He consistently didn't make a lot of positive plays. Now, everyone thinks about that first game with LA, right? He gets off the plane, he shows up at LA, and he wins the game. Like, yeah, that's dope. But what about all the other games he played in Carolina and the rest of the year, right? So, I think we know who Baker is, and that's what we're going to see. Is he going to start the whole season? Is it going to be Kyle Trask's team? I don't know. But if you look at Tampa Bay, man, again, they were not very productive offensively, and even worse for Tampa Bay. I mean, let's go back and look at their rush, right? Their rush offense. Tampa Bay was the worst rushing team in the league, and they're, neck and neck with Houston, right? And so if you look down here, the closer to the bottom you are, the worse you are rushing, and the closer to the right you are, the better you are at passing, right? Tampa Bay was god awful at running the ball, right? And that's why Tom Brady didn't look that good, because teams didn't have to worry about running the ball because the Bucks couldn't run it. Now, again, they had O-line issues. They had O-line injuries, right? They lost Jensen and Wirfs last year. That's a huge deal, right? So they should regress back to the norm. But if you put Baker Mayfield in that offense and it's anything similar to last year, then yeah, I think they've got a great shot at competing for the number 1 pick. My problem, though, is going to be, I think Arizona's going to suck, right? I think Cardinals are going to be absolutely horrendous. I know they're talking about Kyler Murray coming back a little bit sooner, but I don't know if they're going to really have a reason to compete, and they're going to start tanking halfway through, to get that pick. And is Kyler's tenure? I know you got that extension, but if they have a terrible, terrible year, there's going to be some talks. Do you trade Kyler? Houston, CJ Stroud's coming in. Obviously, he's going to be the future for sure, but is this still going to be a rebuilding year, right? What has Houston really done? And the same thing for the Colts. I mean, these are two historically bad teams statistically, right? And so this is going to be your competition for that number one pick. Do the Bucks have a chance? Sure. The NFC South though is going to be trash, right? So I think the Bucks are going to have some chances to pick up wins, where the Texans and Colts may not as much, right? So, but we'll see. We'll see. Joe Hahn, Rams. Yeah, Rams are another team I'm kind of down on. Right, so let's look at it from here. The Rams. There's a lot of talk about Cooper Cup, and his health and whatnot. So again, last year below average offensively, right? And we saw that. And again, injuries played a lot into that, right? So we know LA got hit by the injury bug. This is what I'm more concerned about, though, is the defense, right? So the defense was just, a little bit below average here, but they sold they sold their soul to get all those players a couple of years ago to win that Super Bowl, and now it's the right move. I'm not knocking it, but like they really don't have a chance to reload the way they should. And so if we look at LA's, kind of outlook this year, right? So if you go back, let's say Rams, right? So their win total was set at 7.5 by Vegas, right? The market's at 7.5, and I think that makes sense. They have a pretty middle of the road schedule. RSIM show them averaging 5.5 wins, right? But I mean, they're going to be a clear step behind San Francisco for sure, and then even Seattle, honestly. And I mean, Johan, you tell me, man. I don't know if you can. I mean, you can make an argument for me by splitting Seattle, right? Anything's possible. But I mean, Niners, Bengals, Eagles, Steelers, Cowboys, Packers maybe a toss up. The Browns are going to be the Browns and Ravens back to back, and then you got the Niners. Like that's yeah. I mean, I don't see definitely not winning the West, but it's kind of a tough sell for me for them to even get into the wild card. So it's kind of the same question of how far do they get? I mean, this is a tough stretch. They legit can go 0-3, maybe 1-4 on these first 5 games, and then at what point do you say, all right, well, we're trying to see what else we got. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, what about you? What do you think their ceiling is? Do you think they're going to be a wild card team or higher, or what do you got going on? All right, all right. Let's see. Calvin's up next. Hey, T Swizz, I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. Calvin, what about the Titans? Yeah, yeah. So the Titans are one of those teams where I get the hype with D Hop and whatnot, but I don't get it, right? So here are the Titans down here. So again, if you're just joining, right? So further to the right you are, the better you are offensively. Further to the top you are, the better you are defensively. Titans are projected to be bad at both, right? Pretty subpar on both ends. They lost Bud Dupree last year. They signed D Hop, which should help the offensive side of things. But look at last year, right? We look at their here we go. So look at their offensive and defensive EPA. Again, kind of bad on both. Let's break it down, right? So defensively, Titans terrible, terrible at stopping the run last year. Absolutely trash. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Terrible at stopping the pass. I'm sorry, terrible at stopping the pass last year. And then for the run, also terrible. So what do you do there, right? And then on offense, you can see here, further to the right you are, the better you are at passing the ball. Further to the top you are, better you are at throwing the or running the ball. Excuse me. And they're just kind of bad at both. And we saw that, right? Like they really didn't have a receiver game, right? And so if you can put 8 people in the box to stop King Henry, well, shit, there goes your game plan, right? And we saw that. I mean, we saw Derrick Henry have a down year because they could just stack the box. They weren't really threatened by the pass. And so if we look at Tennessee, what did they really do over the offseason, right? Like, how did they get better, right? So we know they signed D Hop, but in terms of what else they did, right? You come in here, so they got Sean Murphy Bunting, right? So they got a good cornerback, and then they spent some time at the linebacker position, which definitely should help, right? And the DN. So we'll see how that works out. They lost some pieces on the O line. They lost David Long and Andrew Adams on the defensive side. So we'll see how much of that actually plays a role, right? But then you can look at here again. Vegas is kind of the market's telling you they don't really believe in Tennessee, right? Their win total is set at 6.5. Right now, two things going for them, right? One is going to be They do have a fairly easy strength of schedule, right? The ninth easiest schedule in the league. And we did simulate them going about 7.4 wins. But the other thing is, besides, besides the Jags, like, who else are they actually playing, right? In that division. So they've got a chance to pick up some fairly easy wins. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs per se, but they've got a chance to get this win total. I'm just not sold on being a playoff contender, but I think they have a somewhat shot to get to, I wouldn't say 500 because you can't get 500 nowadays with 17 games, but right around either a game below or a game above 500. That wouldn't shock me, so to speak. All right, Owen, where are the what are you looking for? Where are the Vikings? Yeah. Here, I'll show you. So some of these teams are kind of hidden behind others. All right, so the Vikings are down here, right? So again, this is their projected DVOA status. So this is going to be, again, they're projected how efficient will they be. And so the Vikings are projected to have a down year defensively, but a decent year offensively. And we kind of see that. So where they end up last year, right? So the Vikings are gonna be here we go. So again, they're hidden here, but defensively, they were a little bit bad at the pass and the rush, right? And then offensively, again, here we go. They are pretty decent at throwing the ball, but not that good at running the ball, right? Or at least not that productive, I should say, at running the ball. And so for Minnesota, the good thing going for them is the North is wide open, right? Like, you can tell me any four of those teams to be in first or fourth, and I believe you, right? I don't think there's going to be anyone who's going to separate themselves at this point in time out of the NFC North. So they've got a chance to win the North. The bad thing, though, is that, again, the market is expecting a huge regression, right? They went 13-4 last year. Honestly, they won some games they probably shouldn't have won. But if you look at their win total, it's set at 8.5. And so they have a pretty tough schedule, right? So the seventh hardest schedule in all of NFL, and that's kind of a big thing. So they have a path for the North, but it's gonna be tough. Ben, Saints winning 10 plus. Ben, I'm not mad at that. I mean, the Saints have the easiest schedule. They've got a plan, right? So with Derek Carr, they certainly could do it. I feel you on that. Spartan Bears going 11-6, bro. As a Bears fan, I love that. I don't know if they're going to be that good, but I'm definitely buying what you're selling. So, and then right on cue, Calvin goes, "You're wilding." Yeah, I don't blame you. Again, call me delusional, but I'm rooting for it. I'm just a Bears fan, though. Johan, you got them Rams coming at 10-7 as a ceiling wild card, and the floor at 6-11 on the top 10 pick. Uh, yeah. I mean, personally, I think their ceiling's a little lower, but I think that floor is definitely reasonable, for sure. Like, I don't think they're gonna suck, right? I don't want to say like I'm poo pooing. It's doomsday for LA, but I mean that West is just gonna be wild. But yeah, I agree though. I think their only path is gonna be wild card. Let's see. Calvin, this is based on stat that you got to factor in injury. Yeah, Calvin, that's the hard part though, right? Because you can never do that, right? Like, you never know who's going to get injured, and then that's the big risk you take, right? That's the hard part about futures bet. I mean, look at last year. I mean, we saw, well, I think it was like 68 different starting quarterbacks play last year. I mean, that was insane, right? And so there's only so much that you can do for injury, and you got to take that risk. But you're right. Like, if someone gets injured, especially the QB, right, there goes your season potentially, right? I mean, look at how bad the Dolphins were when Tua was out, and so you never know. Let's see, who was Demolition Dan. Dallas being where they are makes this a terrible chart. No, dude, listen, I get why you say that, but also no, I think this is spot on. I think the better take from this is Dallas underperforms every year. Because again, if you take emotion out of it, right? Take emotion out of it. Take your fan hatred or love out of it, right? Dallas is a stacked team. They are a stacked team year in, year out, especially on defense. The problem is Dak. The problem is Dak. He will get you, like, so again, going back here, closer to the right you are, the more productive you are, right? Dak will put up yards, Dak will put up points, but he will also have a bunch of negative plays. He's so volatile, right? And he really caps their ceiling lower than it should be. The Cowboys, go back, Demolition Dan, go back for me, look at the last few years, look at the power rankings, right? Cowboys are always a top 10, near top five power ranked team. They just underperform, right? And so again, this is not saying how they're going to end the season. It's just saying what are the stats showing, right? Where are the stats forecasting based off their metrics last year? And again, they were a good team. They just underperformed because it's the Cowboys. So, but I get why you say it. Jacob, do you have a chart like this with defense? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if you guys want, we do these lives, but we're all like, you can get all these charts for free. They're all on our website. And so if you just give us a follow, the first link or our link in our bio takes you to our link tree, and that first link's our website. These are all free, so you can download these and blow them up. And then we do update these week by week, right? So this will change week 1 through week 10, etc. So we will update these with the most up to date stats, right? And so if you're looking for a defense, we have it based off of pass and rush defense. So Jacob, is there any team you're looking for in particular? But the closer to the right you are, the worse your defense is for the pass, and then the closer, excuse me, to the top you are, the worse your defense is for the run. So where you want to be is down here, like where the Cowboys were, because the Cowboys are a good team. They just underperform, right? In San Francisco and New England, right? So this is kind of the area you want to be at if you're looking for a defense. All right, let's see. Jacob, you think the NFC East is the best division in the league? Ooh, I gotta go AFC East, honestly. I think that the Eagles and Cowboys are gonna be good, right? Washington is probably gonna suck. New York has that chance of like being that pesky wild card spot, right? New York's just good enough to like not win a division even closely, but enough to like fuck up somebody's chances to go into playoffs, right? And so kind of did last year with the Vikings. They snuck in, beat the Vikings. I could see that as their ceiling. But the AFC East, man, with the Bills, the Bills, the Dolphins, and we'll see what the Jets do. I think that's going to be the toughest division in the league. That they're loaded. And honestly, I would think the AFC North is probably slightly more competitive than the NFC East with the Ravens, Bengals, and Browns. I think the Browns are going to be surprisingly good this year because remember last year Watson couldn't play, right? He couldn't practice the team all year, so he was expectedly rusty. But I think he fixes all that this year, and they're going to be a competitive team. So, but I'm excited though. I think the East will be fun to watch for sure. T Switch, I think the Bengals make the Super Bowl this year. I think they're better than the Bills again. Yeah, man. Okay, so this is kind of where they ended off last year, right? So this is says 2023, but this was the end of 2022, right? So this is going in with no 2023 data. Bills and Bengals are the same team, right? They're the same team. And then if you go here to the forecasted metrics for how good they're forecasted to be, Bengals are projected to be a way better offensive team, but Buffalo's projected to be a way better defensive team, right? So what's going to win out here? I think you've seen Kansas City. Kansas City year on year is a pretty mid defensive team, pretty average defensive team, but they're so potent on offense. They win championships. I think the Bengals are going to be that same kind of team. Do I think they're going to be better than the Bills? Probably. I can see the Bills have a better regular season record, but the Bengals going further in the playoffs. That makes sense. You know what I mean? I think the Bengals just have the pieces to do it, and I think the Bills, for whatever reason, man, the Bills just can't put it together during the playoffs. They were the favorite last year, right? They were the favorite to win it all, and they can't put those pieces together. So I think the Bengals going to edge them out. I think it's Joe Burrow's time. Austin Lynch Vikings are trash. As a Bears fan, I'm not mad at that. So yeah, you do you, bro. Little Major, how far do you see the Seahawks going? Ooh, yeah, that's good. So here, let's pull up the Seahawks real quick. So you can see real quick the Seahawks are right here, right? So they're projected to be pretty good on defense, right? And that makes sense, right? They got some of their defensive studs back and kind of below average on offense. But looking at the season outlook, Seattle. Here we go. All right, so Seattle, their line is 8.5 wins, right? They do have the 10th easiest schedule, and our simulation has them going at about 8 wins. So what do I see as a ceiling for Seattle? I can see Seattle fighting for a wild card spot. San Francisco's winning the West. There's nothing you can tell me that would make me think San Francisco's not coming out the West. But I could see Seattle in the thick of it for that last wild card spot for sure. I think that's about as high as they go. I think Gino regresses. But I mean, and full disclosure, I'll be transparent. I talked so much shit about Gino going into last season, like he's not the answer. He's gonna suck, and he proved me wrong. All he did was go back and win the NFL Comeback Player of the Year. So give credit where credit's due. But I think Gino is who we think he is. I think he kind of regresses back. Now, of course, he's going to have DK again. He's going to have Jackson Smith and Jigba. So that's going to be good for him. But if you look at kind of where he was last year, I mean, Gino was, above average productive, but also very volatile, right? Very inconsistent. So I think that he lucked out. He got on the right side of plays last year. I think he regresses back towards this way this year, but that's just my opinion, right? So that's where I see as Seattle going. But what about you, Little Major? You got them going past the higher than a wild card spot, or what you got? Let's see. So Pat stats wise are the second best run defense. Also, AFC East is by far the best. Four teams are good. Redneck Sox fan. Yeah, I listen. I agree. Honestly, I agree. So you can see here the Patriots, and I think this is going to be higher, right? And so it has them projected as a kind of above average defense, but kind of more closer to average than above average, right? And then stone cold average offense. But if you look at how they ended last year, I mean, look at the defense, right? So this is ending last year, right? So after the last game played, the Patriots were like the second best defense in the league statistically, and that's on brand, right? That's on brand for who the Patriots are. Tough defense, and obviously you have Tom Brady, right? But tough defense, and then that kind of wins you their games. And so I think they go back to rising towards the top this year, and then we'll see how Bill O'Brien does, right? Bill O'Brien's supposed to be the offensive guru. Can he take Mac Jones and make him a better quarterback? Because last year Mac Jones was not that good, right? I mean, you look over here. Here, let me pull up Mac. He's right here, right? So Mac Jones was a below average productive quarterback, right? And we saw that, right? We saw them playing quarterback shuffle with Mac and Bailey Zappi and whatnot. And so what's going to be the formula this year? I don't know, but I don't think they'll be bad. It just sucks they're in the AFC East. Like they're not going to be better than the Bills or the Jets or the Dolphins, but they're not a bad team. It's just unfortunate they got placed there. Johan, thoughts on the Jags? Yeah, I mean the Jags are winning the South. Like that's a no brainer to me. The Jags are down here. You can see this. They're going to be an above average offensive team going in. The defense might be questionable, but let me say right now, don't sleep on Calvin Ridley. I think everyone's kind of forgot about him because of the suspension last year, but that boy is going to be a problem, an absolute problem. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I think the Jags are winning the South without a doubt. Jacob, as a biased Commanders fan, we're half a game back from a wild card shot with Taylor Heinicke. Well, here's the thing though, you don't have Taylor Heinicke. He's with Atlanta now. So does that change your outlook? Right? Because here, Washington. You guys, you picked up Jacoby Brissett, right? So you'll have Sam Howell versus or Jacoby Brissett. But I think Jacoby's good. I think that's a good pick for you guys. I don't know if he's going to start, but I think that's a good pickup. But yeah, I mean Taylor's proven he can win games for sure. But so I don't think that's a downgrade by any means. But yeah, you won't have Heinicke. He's with Atlanta. But I get it. Listen, I'm a Bears fan. I got a little sprinkle them winning the North. I'm delusional, so I'm not gonna ruin your parade. So let's see. Yeah, Redneck Sox fan, four teams, go 500, no bad teams. Agreed. T Swizz agrees. Let's see. We did trying to catch up here. Joe throwing to an older, more experienced Jason Higgins is insane. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. Remember when Jamar Chase got to the league? Everyone's like, oh man, he can't catch. He's got butterfingers. He'll never make it into the league, and he just absolutely destroyed everyone. Yeah, that was wild. Logan Packers. As a Bears fan, no, I'm not doing it. No. Yeah, let's talk about them, right? So Packers are going to be here. So they're projected to be a dead average team, right? And so we can't. So this is for the productivity chart, right? So how productive were these quarterbacks last year? But he needs a minimum 100 passes, so we don't have enough data for Jordan Love. But with that being said, again, the NFC North is wide open. I mean, you could tell me any one of those teams finishes first or last, and I'd believe you, right? And so right now their win total is set at 7.5. So Detroit's actually favored to win the North by the market. But Green Bay is coming in with pretty much a middle of the road strength of schedule. And then in our simulations, we have them winning on average 9.4 wins out of the 10,000 simulations that we did. Now, the big question obviously is going to be, what can Jordan Love do, right? He's not Aaron Rodgers, but if there's any team, in the league that proves that they can make a quarterback like impactful on day one, it's Green Bay, right? I mean, they did it with Brett Favre. They did it with Aaron Rodgers when Brett Favre left, right? And so Jordan Love's had a couple of years now to sit under Aaron Rodgers. So I think you see the same thing. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Jordan Love kind of ball, but I wouldn't be shocked if they finish fourth in the North, though. But again, I'm a Bears fan, so I think they're going to go winless. Redneck, Pat ceiling and floor. Yeah, I mean, obviously their floor is going to be fourth, right? I think that's probably most realistic. In terms of a win total, though, for me, I would say probably 10 wins would be like the high end. Well, yeah, I'd say nine, probably 9 wins. I think a 9-8 season is what I see for the Pats as their ceiling. And so let's pull up real quick, right? So if you look at it, their win total is 7.5. That's the market, right? Oh, I forgot about this. Redneck Sox fan. The Patriots have the hardest strength of schedule in the NFL next year. The hardest. They're 32 out of 32. And a lot of that has to do because they're in the East, right? So you got the Dolphins, Jets, and Bills twice, so that sucks. But then you also have the Eagles, the Cowboys. I think they can beat the Chargers. That'll be a tough game, right? So yeah, that's not great for the Pats. So I can see 9-8. Then their floor probably like a 5-12, 6-11 kind of team. But yeah, again, it's tough because they're in the East. You know, if you put the Patriots in the South, okay, right? You've got a shot at winning the division, but the East is just so damn loaded with talent. I don't know how they escape that. Go Dogs. Talk about the Jags. T Swiss, who are your breakout players or surprising rookies this year? Oh, that's a good question, man. I saw some analysis on kind of like who can be a standout, from the receiving cores and pretty much like every position. But I think the ceiling. I think the best player. I think the best player is going to be Bijan Robinson because I think he's in a system to really shine, and that's going to feed him the ball. The problem is he's gonna be splitting carries with so many other people. It's not going to look great on paper. You know what I mean? I think Jackson Smith and Jigga's going to be a problem. I think Zay Flowers is going to be an absolute beast. But yeah, I'm not quite sure who's going to be my breakout just yet. I got to get more thoughts to that, but probably one of those three. How about you? Let's see. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Still, let's see. Lions have the most talented roster in the North. Connor. Again, I'm biased, so I'm gonna say no. No, no, I disagree. And that's strictly emotional, right? Because they're down. But yeah, I mean they had a kind of a big overhaul in the secondary though, and they lost DeAndre Swift. I mean, here let's pull them up, right? So Detroit. Here we go. So let's see. Detroit lost Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, DJ Shark. They lost Jeff Okuda and Mike Hughes and Deshaun Elliott. Right now, they did pick up Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who leads the league in chain snatches and fistfights. So I'll give you that. So they got a little bit of dogs, and they did steal David Montgomery from us. So I'll give you that. But yeah, they're projected at 9.5. Now, to your point, Connor. To be fair, they are favored to win the North. So I'll give you that. And they have a pretty middle of the road schedule in terms of strength of schedule. So they've got a chance there, but I think they have the highest expectations, but I don't think they have the highest ceiling, if that makes sense. Reaper, Steelers D higher. Yeah, Steelers are right here. Again, this is not like a ranking. These are just the DVOAs based off what happened last year, right? And this is kind of an over the offseason to project into 2023. So, these teams, I mean, to a point, these teams will move, right? Like these teams are not going to stay static all year long. Like as we get actual game data, this will move week to week. But, if you look at what happened last year, right? How'd they end up or how they finished last year? The Steelers were below average. That's not an opinion. Like statistically speaking, they finished the year below average on pass defense and slightly below average on run defense. So it's not a shocker that they're ranked kind of low, especially for Steelers. Again, that's the steel curtain, right? I get that that's a low for a Steelers team, but that's factual. That's where the stats led them or placed them based off last year. So can they turn that around? Sure, right? But they got to prove it first. They didn't earn it last year. Let's see. Yeah, thanks guys for helping point out where the teams are. So Reaper Pickens to Pickett to Pickens gonna be legendary. Yeah, listen, George Pickens is the dog. He's the dog, right? Like there's no if, answer, but about it. That's gonna be a problem. We look here again. This is the volatility chart, right? So Kenny Pickett's right down here. So Kenny Pickett was stone cold average in productivity, right? So how productive was he on a per play basis? Stone cold average, which was good. That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's just like a game manager, right? You want teams like, yeah, sure, you'd love a Mahomes, right? But you don't want quarterbacks who are going to lose you a game, right? I would rather have a game manager who's going to, be average and keep us in the game than have somebody like, a Zach Wilson, right? Or Baker Mayfield who's going to potentially lose us the game. So that's not a knock on Kenny. And I think he will get this. I mean, I think he has a legit chance of taking a step forward, right? And so if he just keeps his consistency and moves a little bit to the right, all of a sudden he's in that Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow range. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as those quarterbacks, but statistically speaking, he can be as productive. So there's hope there, right? But yeah, Pickens definitely is going to help that out, for sure. Uh, Colin with the laugh face at Jeff Okuda, so I'm guessing you're not a believer. So that's fair. Aiden, the Commanders. Yeah, so Washington, I don't know, man. Aiden, I'm assuming you're a Commanders fan. You got to help me out because I'm not seeing a lot to be happy about. So they are going to have a really good defense, right? They're projected to have a really good defense, and that's really what they've kind of hung their hat on. At least should have hung their hat on, when all folks are healthy. But there's just so many questions at quarterback, right? What's that offense gonna look like? And I think that's gonna be their Achilles heel. And so, can they get to 9 or 500? A game above or below, maybe. But I mean, against the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Giants, I mean, they're going to be last. They're just statistically they're not there yet. So I think it's going to take a huge lift, if you will. Now, can Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell be the answer? Potentially, right? And then you guys also got Eric Bieniemy, as your OC. So, can he come in and do something? Possibly. I mean, I'm rooting for the guy. But if you look at it, again, the market is not favorable, right? So their win total is set at 6.5 wins. They have a pretty damn tough strength of schedule, right? So 24th, that's the 8th hardest. Now in our simulations, they did come in for an average of 7.4 wins. So again, they can be in the hunt for a 500, slot, but I don't know if there's really much more that you can be excited for, right? So again, I think the big things you picked up Jacoby Brissett, that's huge. You picked up a little bit of help on defense, but other than that, I'm not really sure what there's really there to be excited about. Personally, again, I'm not trying to show them the Commanders. I just, that's my take from seeing all this put together. But what about you, man? Aiden, what do you think their ceiling is? All right. Let's see who else we got. Aiden only got better this offseason. Okay. BD93. Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the North, and nobody wants to admit it. Oof. Oof. I will say, Jared Goff is way better than people give him credit for. I absolutely agree with you there. And I think look at Matt Stafford, right? I think Detroit is just such a bad team year in and year out. Like, you don't realize how good these quarterbacks are, right? You don't realize how good these players are. Calvin Johnson, first ballot Hall of Famer, right? Everyone recognized he was a monster, but even he, I think, got underrated at times just because it's Detroit, right? They lose games, and so statistically, BB93, you're not wrong, right? I mean, Jared Goff, from a productivity standpoint, from an expected points added per play, he's in the same realm as Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, right? So he's not a bad quarterback, right? I know he got the bat in the stick, right? The optics look bad, right? You get traded from one team to another, and the team you were just on wins the Super Bowl, right? That's a bad look, right? But like Jared Goff is not a bad quarterback, so I will give you credit in saying that he's definitely better than people give him credit for. But as a Bears fan, no, no, no. Justin Fields is the best quarterback in the North, and that's purely emotional. But I don't care. I don't care. But so I'll meet you halfway. Let's see. Reaper, thoughts on Anthony Richardson? Wait, why we do two? Reaper and Mason Ivy. Anthony Richardson and Jay Love. Yeah, so you're not going to see Anthony Richardson on here. Obviously, he's a rookie, right? So we have no data on him just yet. This is from last season. Um, I don't really get I don't get the hype, right? I mean, I get the hype, but I don't get the expectations, I guess. So Anthony Richardson is one of those quarterbacks who is going to be high risk, high reward, right? We all know he's athletic. We all know he has a cannon. The boy can throw the ball. But what has he done, right? Like, what has he really done at Florida from a resume standpoint, right? He doesn't have that many games under his belt. We know he has inaccuracies with the long ball, right? And he can't just run forever, right? And I know Lamar and to some extent Pat Mahomes has made a sort of a career on that, but that's not forever. I mean, look at RG3, right? RG3 was supposed to be this great quarterback, mobile, you can run, he can throw, with questionable accuracy, and I know he got hurt, but like that really didn't pan out, right? So Anthony Richardson, I think he's going to struggle this year. I think he has a chance to. I think Anthony Richardson has a trajectory of Geno Smith, right? Like he has a chance to be a solid starting quarterback who's going to make great plays and is going to make bad plays. But until they clean up those throwing mechanics, I don't know. Now Jordan Love, I think, has a better chance at succeeding right away because he's been studying in that Green Bay system. He knows the system a little bit better. He's seen NFL game speed. So I think his ceiling's higher, but or I'm sorry, I think his floor is higher, but I think Anthony Richardson's ceiling can be higher. If that makes sense. So Anthony, high risk, high reward, but we'll see, man. We'll see. I think the Colts are going to suck this year, so he's going to get some unfair judgment for sure. But we'll see about year two and so forth. Let's see. H. Justin Field isn't even top 15. Slander. H. Justin Fields I don't know that stat, but Justin Fields was very productive last year. He just had to run the ball and not throw it. Now, from a quarterback standpoint, I think he was like 34th or 5th of like all quarterback productivity from passing the ball, right? But that offensive line was absolute trash last year. I mean, let's look at this. This is the offensive line ranking. The Bears were absolutely trash at the O line. Justin Fields didn't have a pocket the most plays. Like, you actually go back and watch Bears film, Fields gets the ball, and about a second and a half later, he's running for his life, right? There was no pocket there. So he had to run. That's why he ran for 180 yards a game, right? And then the other thing to keep in mind is, halfway through, remember, we got rid of our two best defensive players last year. And so if you look at the defense, here we go. Pass and rush defense. Bears are in a league of their own. They are historically bad, right? But again, we were tanking. So you throw in the fact that you have no offensive line, right? You have no protection, and oh yeah, you're down by 14 points late in the game, so you gotta throw anyway, so the defense can pin their ears back and kind of go after you. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. So I think Fields got an unfair shake last year. Now I will say, this is the year, right? So we brought in some offensive line help, right? We restocked up on defense, and so there are no excuses, right? If Fields plays like trash this year, then yeah, I'll concede Fields is not the answer, but I think he's definitely going to have a huge step forward. So, how dare you for the slander? How dare you? All right, let's see. TKO1, who would you keep in the keeper league, Kelce or Ekeler? Kelce. I mean, I think Ekeler obviously has the higher ceiling, right? But how do you trust any running back right now with all the shit's going on with their worth and their value. I mean, I think Eckler definitely has a higher ceiling because he's going to be their man. But there's just so many weapons at the receiver front in LA. I mean, I mean, you've got Williams, right? You've got Keenan. You've got Quentin Johnston drafted from TCU. I mean, that receiver room is fucking stacked. And so, but Travis Kelce is it's good old Travis Kelce. Like he's getting a touchdown every game, right? He's getting 6, 7 catches every game, right? He's Mr. Reliable. Eckler definitely is a more explosive player, but there's just so many other weapons around him. I just don't know if he's going to get enough touches to really make a difference year in year or from a week in, week out from a fantasy perspective. Now that's just my personal take. That's not database. That's just my personal feel. If you had asked me, I would keep Kelce. Right. Yeah, looks like Reaper agrees. Okay, okay. All right, what else we got? What else we got? Let's see. H, should we take anything out of these preseason games in your opinion? Example of Chiefs loss versus Saints. No, absolutely not. I will. I mean, because think about it. I mean, how many times? What was it? I think the Browns went 4-0, or like back a couple years ago. Then had a historically bad season. No, I mean, I think what you want to take stock in is what are some of these potential role players going to look like, right? If you're concerned about anyone's team health, So for me, big takeaways were you look at the Philadelphia locker room, right? Mariota's the backup now, but if you watch, Tanner McKee has been killing it. Their third string quarterback has been absolutely tearing it up, right? And so, remember last year when Jalen got hurt, right? You had what's his face? Not the other bearded guy, not Fitzpatrick, but dude from the Jaguars. I'm blanking on his name right now, but anyway, you had him, and they went 0-2, right? They almost damn near lost the 1 seed. So a backup quarterback is incredibly important. Mariota played okay, but Tanner McKee balled. So I think it's more important from like a backup standpoint, an insurance plan, like what teams are actually looking good in terms of depth, than like, oh, this team plays shitty or they play well in the preseason, they're going to be that good. So I personally know. Now, from a fantasy perspective, if you're like in a 12 or 14 league fantasy perspective, I'm definitely watching preseason because you can find some sleepers. I think it was the Browns game yesterday. Austin Watson was up. Well, no, I think it's Austin Watkins. Yeah, Watkins for the Browns. That dude, he went for like 6 for 180 or something crazy like that, right? So you can definitely find some value if you're like in a deep fantasy league. But other than that, no, I definitely wouldn't take too much stock in preseason games for sure. All right, let's see. Ba, 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 ba. Steelers, I think we talked about them, but yeah, I think they're going to be fourth in the North. Well, but they have a high ceiling. They have a high ceiling, right? I mean, I think Browns. So for me, it's Bengals, Ravens, Browns, right? And you can flip Ravens and Browns, right? You honestly could flip Ravens and Bengals, right? So 1 through 3 could be any one of those. Steelers, I think you can flip them between 4 and 3. I can't see the Steelers getting to the second seed or higher, personally. But yeah, we'll see. All right, all right. Who else? Let's see. Aiden. I think I got that one already. Thank you, John. Thank you. Gardner Minshew. Thank you. That's the name I was gonna think of. Yeah, Gardner Minshew was not playing well. All right, guys. I got a couple more minutes left, and I got to hop off. But I appreciate you guys. If you have any, give us a follow if you haven't already. We do this every day. I'll take one last one. H. Any surprise teams for the upcoming season? Yeah. For me, my biggest surprise team is going to be again the Falcons. I'm all over the Falcons. They're in the weak division, right? They've shored up on defense. Their run game is going to be phenomenal. And then you just need Desmond Ridder to be a game manager. Like you don't need to put the game in Desmond Ritter's hands necessarily. So I think they're going to be a team that honestly could get 10 wins. Now I don't think they're going to be the best team, but they have a sneaky. They're going to be sneaky good. So that's probably my surprise team. And then from the AFC, I would say the Browns. I think people are definitely underrating the Browns because of what they saw last year, but with the whole Deshaun not be able to practice thing, I think that's a huge thing. That timing, that familiarity is going to be there this year. And I think you see the Browns take a huge step forward. So Those are the two teams I'm really high on. Now, unfortunately, I think the Browns have the Bengals in week one. That's going to be a bad start for them. But other than that game, I'm definitely taking. I'll probably be backing the Browns a little more than I think the market will. All right. Last thing, Jack. What does EPA mean? Yeah. So EPA is expected points added. So essentially, what it does is on a per play basis, right? Think about like if you so let's say if you score a touchdown and you make the extra point, that's 7 points, right? And so if you saw on your own 20 and you hit a 60-yard pass, right? Well, the chances of you scoring, the expectation of you scoring goes way up, right? Because you're close to the end zone. You had a huge play. And then same thing, let's say you were at the 50-yard line and you took a 15-yard sack. Well, your expected points go down because now it's a lot harder for you to score points. So what EPA does is it takes on a per play basis. It takes what are your expected points added for every play, right? So really, what that means is how productive are you to getting towards the end zone or to scoring on a per play basis. And so you can kind of think of it as just productivity, like how efficient are these teams at moving an offense, and how efficient are these teams on defense stopping the opposing offense. If that makes sense. So, and if you want more on our page, you have videos where you kind of break down what all these stats mean. I know we don't really talk about these in our, you don't see these on ESPN or things like that, but these are really good predictive stats that we use for forecasting, for betting, that kind of stuff. So if you want a little more, it's on our page. All right, guys, I got to head out, but I appreciate you all. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the conversation. And, again, we do this every day. So, feel free to hop back on. We'll try to get on like about an hour a day. So if you have any questions, shoot us a DM. Otherwise, we will see you next time. And then on here, one last one before I go. Where's Minnesota? If you're looking at this one, Minnesota's right behind the Steelers. And if you're looking at the forecasted one, Minnesota's down here. Again, all this is on our website completely for free, so you can download them and we'll update them weekly. All right, y'all. Until next time, see you later.